And welcome to the first show of the semester for Halftime on the Hudson. I'm Eddie Whitman alongside John Rohr. Let's start with hot takes. As everyone knows, the Browns had a very difficult time finding their franchise quarterback over the years. This time, they finally got it right. The Browns surprised many people when they selected Baker Mayfield #1 overall in the 2018 NFL Draft, and many people immediately said they made a big mistake and they should have drafted Saquon Barkley or Sam Darnold. It may be early, but the Browns finally made the right decision. On Thursday night, Baker Mayfield delivered the Browns' first win in 635 days. Mayfield made his pro debut late in the second quarter after starter Tyrod Taylor left the game with a concussion. Mayfield jumped right in and never looked back. The stadium and the players had a whole different energy with Mayfield on the field, and it was amazing to see. For all of his football career, Mayfield has had to earn everything he's done. As a true freshman, he went from walk-on to starting quarterback at Texas Tech. When he transferred to Oklahoma, he went from walk-on to Heisman Trophy winner and #1 overall pick. He did not have the typical road to the NFL. He had to work for it. In his NFL debut, he came in just before halftime and ended up going 17 for 23 with 201 yards and led the Browns to a come-from-behind win. Now that Baker has been named starting quarterback, I expect him to win Rookie of the Year and also win the Browns at least 6 games. The Browns have finally found the right guy for their franchise quarterback. And Baker Mayfield is going to win the Browns a lot of games going forward.
FIFA announced the 2018 World 11 on Monday, and while the team was filled with familiar faces of Messi, Ronaldo, and Modric, as well as nearly all of Real Madrid's entire back line, a few notables were left out. One could certainly argue that Neymar, Griezmann, and Salah should have been included, but I have more of an issue with one of the players who did make the final 11. PSG right back Dani Alves made the team for the 7th time in 8 years, and many, including myself, are wondering, well, why? The Brazilian has made just 16 club appearances in 2018, got knocked out in the Champions League round of 16, didn't play for Brazil in this past summer's World Cup, and has yet to appear in any competition so far this season. Alves isn't even the first choice right back on his team, so how could he be the first choice right back in the world? Bayern's Joshua Kimmich, back-to-back-to-back-to-back Champions League winner Daniel Carvajal, and England's World Cup right-backs of Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier would be more deserving than 35-year-old Alves. While the World 11 is voted on by other players and is largely a popularity contest, the inclusion of Dani Alves makes me wonder if he has some serious dirt on some of those voting and is essentially holding their ballots hostage.
As the NBA season is nearly a month away and training camps are beginning around the league, excitement is starting to grow. The NBA is almost back. Now that the king of the East, LeBron James, went west to join the Los Angeles Lakers, the Eastern Conference is finally wide open. The Washington Wizards will get to the NBA Finals this season. The Wizards have one of the best backcourts in the NBA with John Wall and Bradley Beal. These two guys are just as good as any tandem in the Eastern Conference. Otto Porter and Markieff Morris give the Wizards great outside shooting, which stretches the floor a lot. Both these players are also tough defensive players. The big offseason acquisition for the Wizards was center Dwight Howard. Howard averaged 16 points and 12 rebounds for the Hornets last season and could be the missing piece the Wizards needed. New acquisitions Austin Rivers, Jeff Green, and Kelly Oubre give the Wizards some much-needed bench depth. Rivers was traded by the Clippers and scored 14 points a game last season. Jeff Green helped the Cleveland Cavaliers get back to the NBA Finals and scored 19 points and had 8 rebounds in the Cavs' Game 7 victory against the Boston Celtics. Oubre averaged 11 points for the Wizards last season in his 6-man role. With All-Stars John Wall and Bradley Beal leading the way and a bunch of capable scorers to complement them, and a great big man in the paint, it could be a very special season for the Washington Wizards. Watch out, Wizards will be in the NBA Finals this season.
What if I told you that the world's most dominant 33-year-old isn't LeBron James or Cristiano Ronaldo, but rather someone who just stands 5'6" in stature? Last week in the streets of Berlin, Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge broke the marathon world record by over a minute, with a time of 2 hours, 1 minute, and 39 seconds. The Olympic champion has won every major marathon he's entered since 2014 and may very well become the first human to break the 2-hour barrier. As part of Nike's Breaking 2 project, Kipchoge ran a 2-hour and 25-second marathon, a time which cannot be counted due to the use of rotating pacers. While the greatest of all-time debate rages between LeBron or MJ, Ronaldo, Messi, or Pelé, in this case there is no debate. Eliud Kipchoge is the GOAT, yet nobody seems to be paying attention.
When we return, John and I will give you our thoughts on the remainder of the MLB season. Unless you live under a rock, you know the MLB playoffs are just around the corner. So first off, Rookie of the Year. There's been a lot of good rookies in baseball this year. Who do you have as your Rookie of the Year?
In the National League, I have Ronald Acuna Jr.
Cool pick.
I think it's going to be pretty unanimous. I don't think there's anybody even close. Do you agree on that?
I do agree
Okay.
on that. I feel like pretty much everyone said that he's the guy. He's been great as a rookie. He's pretty much been one of the guys, the reason why they won the NL East.
AL, it's a little tough. It could be either one of the Yankees, Gleyber Torres, Miguel Andujar. It could also be Showtime Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, he's definitely up there. I personally have Miguel Andujar from the Yankees. I've watched a lot of their games this year, and he's been really impressive. He's hitting around 300. He's just under 300 with 26 home runs and 87 RBIs. So that's pretty much not MVP numbers, but it's definitely all-star worth numbers. So he definitely had a great year for the Yankees.
Yep, and the only knock I have on Torres is he hasn't quite been able to stay healthy throughout the season.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. MVP, NL, I have Christian Yelich. He's hit for the cycle twice in the last month. Not many guys do that at all in their career.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have Yelich as well. He hit over 300, which is pretty impressive for a power hitter, which I think he is, over 30 home runs. So I think he definitely has that. And in the AL, I have J.D. Martinez. He's definitely slowed down in the second half, but he's been great all year for the Red Sox. He had a really hot start, but he's proven to be worth the money the Red Sox spent on him.
So in the AL, I have Mookie Betts. I have a hard time picking a DH to win the MVP. Mookie leads the lead in batting average, runs, and wins above replacement. So I think it's Mookie this year.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the Red Sox. I mean, they had a great year this year. So, I'm a Yankee fan, so it pains me to say J.D. Martinez, but I guess he deserves it. So for AL Cy Young, who do you have for that one?
Blake Snell. AL Cy Young's a little tricky this year.
Yeah.
It could be Chris Sale. Could even be Trevor Bauer. He was out for a little while, but I have Blake Snell.
I mean, you can't go wrong with that pick. I mean, the Rays haven't been that great this year, but he's won 21 games, which is always impressive, and under 2 ERA. So by the numbers, he's definitely deserving. I mean, I guess the team's win-loss record isn't that great, but based on him individually, he definitely deserves it.
NL Cy Young, I got to go Jacob deGrom. I know his win-loss isn't the best, but win-loss isn't everything nowadays. He has a 1.7 ERA.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the record 9-9, it's really unfair to what he's done. I'm pretty sure I saw a stat, like, if the Mets gave him 4 runs every game, I'm pretty sure he'd have over 20 wins and only a few losses. So, I mean, it's definitely the Mets offense that's holding back wins-wise, but you see the ERA 1.7, you really can't argue that. That's high-level stuff. So he's definitely deserving of the NL Cy Young.
So World Series, what's your matchup?
I see it being the same matchup as it was last year. I see the Astros and Dodgers going back at it again. Went 7 games last year. I think it might be pretty much the same. I had the Astros repeating. I think their pitching staff, Justin Verlander and adding Garrett Cole, I mean, that 1-2 punch will give them a chance to go up 2 games in any series. And, of course, their lineup's great. Led by Altuve. I mean, they have a deep lineup, so I see the Astros win the World Series this year. I
agree with the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers come playoff time just have a special gear. They turn it on. They kind of scrape through division this year, but I think they'll be all right in the playoffs. Coming out of the NL, I have the Cleveland Indians. I just think the 1-2 punch of Lindor and Ramirez being the first 30-30 guy in 6 years, I have that. And they could field an entire team of all-stars or former all-stars. So I'm going to take the Indians to win the World Series. Actually, I'll go ahead and call them the Windians.
That's a pretty good pick. I mean, the Indians obviously have the talent. I mean, last year they were up 2-0 in the ALDS and blew that series, but they definitely have enough talent to win it. But I personally think, talk about the Red Sox, I mean, they have the best record in baseball, but I honestly see them slowing down a little bit, and they have of the last month. So I see the Red Sox maybe even losing to the Yankees in ALDS, but I see the Red Sox going down at some point in the playoffs.
Yep. So the advantage the Indians have is they kind of got to coast through the AL Central this year.
That's true.
Nobody else in baseball has had that privilege. There's some pretty tight divisions. And when we come back, Corey Grip will give us his top 5 NFL power rankings, and Eddie and I will provide you with the games of the week. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. I'm Corey Grip. This is my NFL power rankings for Week 4. Let's start our countdown with the number 5 team on my list, the New Orleans Saints. While this may be shocking to some, the Saints are my number 5 team in the power rankings. Saints have not looked like the same team as last season. They gave up 48 points in the season-opening loss to Tampa Bay, and it took an utter collapse by the Cleveland Browns kicker for them to win Week 2, 21-18. Finally, it took an incredible effort from quarterback Drew Brees and running back Alvin Kamara to fight off the Atlanta Falcons on the road in a 43-37 victory. The Saints defense will need to play better if they expect to compete for a Super Bowl. They have the pieces to do it, led by defensive end Cameron Jordan and corner Marcus Lattimore, but will need to adjust as the season progresses. The offense, however, will continue to be elite as the season continues. Brees broke an NFL record for completed passes in a career, passing Brett Favre at 6,300 this past Sunday, and has broken the highest single-season completion percentage multiple times. Once Mark Ingram returns, the Saints will once again have a two-headed running back monster, which will keep Kamara fresher as the season continues. Michael Thomas, their elite wide receiver, is proving he belongs among the top wideouts in the game with over 300 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns through 3 games. The Saints team has depth across their offense and has too much talent on defense to not improve. Keep an eye on the Saints as the season continues. At number 4, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. The Carson Wentz era has officially resumed. While Wentz looked rusty and the offensive line is still trying to regain last season's form, he still threw for over 250 yards with a touchdown. The Eagles started 1-1 without Wentz, being led by backup Nick Foles. And while Foles led the Eagles to their first Super Bowl title over the GOAT, Tom Brady, he's not a good starter in the NFL. Other than his 2013 season under former head coach Chip Kelly, when he threw for 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, he's been below average. The Eagles still have a very elite defense, which was on full display against the Atlanta Falcons on opening night, holding the Falcons to just 12 points, who just happened to score 37 on the Saints and 31 on the Panthers the past 2 weeks. They also held the Andrew Luck-led Colts to 16 points this past Sunday. The Eagles have yet to fully take flight this season, as wide receiver Alshon Jeffrey is yet to play, running back Jay Ajayi has been hobbled by a back injury the past 2 games, and outside of tight end Zach Ertz and receiver Nelson Aguilar, their playmakers have not combined contributed much. As Eagles start to get healthier and Wentz shakes off the rust, they will once again put fear in their opponents. At number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. While they did lose to the Steelers this past Monday night, and while many would argue these Eagles and Saints are better than Tampa Bay, and I know it's early, but Fitzmagic and the Buccaneers beat both of those teams and deserve to be ranked above them in the power rankings at number 3. Ryan Fitzpatrick, a journeyman quarterback who's been average for many years, is on a tear through the first 2 games. He has thrown for over 800 yards and 8 touchdowns through 2 games, while also rushing for a touchdown. And he also played very well against the Steelers, despite his 3 interceptions. Fitzpatrick has an array of weapons to throw to as well, including arguably a top 5 receiver, Mike Evans, receivers Chris Godwin and Deshaun Jackson, who seems to have revitalized his career with over 275 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns, and tight end O.J. Howard. Tampa Bay's defense has had many issues over the years, especially in the secondary, and those issues were on full display in a 48-40 win over the Saints in New Orleans. However, they bounced back the next week, only allowing 21 points to defending Super Bowl champion Eagles. Fitzpatrick has been known to collapse and make mistakes in big games, and none are bigger than a nationally televised game against the Steelers. Well, like I said, 3 interceptions, that's the real Ryan Fitzpatrick for you. And with quarterback Jameis Winston coming off his suspension after the Steelers game, there will start to be quarterback questions. If Fitzpatrick beats the Steelers, which he didn't, there will be doubt for the Buccaneers, and they might have to continue to roll with Fitzpatrick. But if the Steelers win, which they did, the thought of change to pop up in the coach's mind, as Winston looked very good in the preseason. At number 2, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, Pat Mahomes. The 2 words that all Chiefs fans can't stop talking about right now. At number 2, the second-year quarterback from Texas Tech has been playing beyond his years with 13 touchdowns and over 800 passing yards through 3 games. They have torched every defense they've faced so far, including the Chargers, the Steelers, and the San Francisco 49ers. The reason the Chiefs have been so successful is because, well, the personnel matches Mahomes' skill set. He has a very strong arm and can sling the ball all over the field. With talented athletes and immense speed all over the field, including Tyreek Hill, DeAnthony Thomas, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, and Chris Conley, Mahomes has the ability to maximize their potential. The Chiefs have scored 38, 42, and 38 points in all 3 of their games, which might not be sustainable, but there's no denying the talents the Chiefs have. While their offense has been clicking, the defense seems to be lagging behind. Their defense has given up 27, 28, and 38 points in their 3 wins. Their defense will need to play better for the Chiefs to be serious Super Bowl contenders, but as long as their offense continues to click, that will give their defense time to continue to grow. Remember, it is still September. And at number 1, this seems to be the most obvious team to put at the top of the power rankings, and that's the LA Rams. After a productive offseason which saw the Rams trade for elite corners Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib, wide receiver Brandon Cooks, who they eventually re-signed, while also signing defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh and re-signing game changers and running back Todd Gurley and defensive tackle Aaron Donald, the Rams are off to a 3-0 start. The Rams started the season traveling up to take on the John Gruden-led Raiders, and while they struggled at times in the first half, people must remember that almost all of the Rams star players did not play in the preseason, making the first half their whole preseason. The Rams were down 13-10 at halftime to the Raiders and have never trailed since. They held the Raiders scoreless in the second half, including 3 interceptions of Raiders quarterback Derek Carr in a 33-13 victory. They shut out the Cardinals in their home opener the very next week while holding star running back David Johnson to under 20 yards on 13 carries. And in their most recent game, they held the LA Chargers and their high-flying offense to 23 points and held quarterback Phillip Rivers to just 226 passing yards. Quarterback Jared Goff and head coach Sean McVay are looking more and more connected. The Rams have a great receiving core, a star running back, and a solid offensive line. They also have the stars all over the defense. The Rams will likely be in the top 5 of the power rankings for the rest of the season. And with the talent they have, well, I think we can all say it's safe to assume they will continue and possibly play for a Super Bowl as the season progresses. That's all for this week's NFL Power Rankings. I'm Corey Grip. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Corey. Now into our games of the week.
The New York Yankees will be traveling to Boston for a 3-game series against the Red Sox beginning on Friday night. The Red Sox have already clinched the AL East, but the Yankees have big playoff implications relying on these games. The Yankees have clinched a wildcard spot, but are still trying to clinch the game being at home at Yankee Stadium. These games are games the Yankees need to win because the Oakland A's are right behind them. They need to ensure that these games are at home, so that makes the weekend series very important. Also, if the Yankees win the wildcard game, they would advance to take on the Red Sox in the ALDS. So this game could be a very good lead-up to a heated playoff series between these two rivals. These 3 games are extremely important if the Yankees want to make another playoff run this season.
I'm just glad the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry is back.
Yeah, definitely. It's always fun to see Yankees-Red Sox baseball.
Exactly. My game of the week this week is a college football matchup with serious playoff implications, as the Ohio State Buckeyes travel to Happy Valley to take on Trace McSorley and Penn State on Saturday night. The Scarlet and Gray will be without star defensive end and potential #1 overall pick Nick Bosa. Bosa underwent major abdominal surgery last Thursday and will likely be sidelined until November. This game is a must-win for Penn State if they have any hopes of making the college football playoff following their upset loss to Arizona State in Week 2. It's also Urban Meyer's first real test after returning from a 3-game suspension.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that game. Obviously, 2 of the best teams in the country, so it should be a fun game to watch.
I'm going to go ahead and take Ohio State in double overtime.
I'm picking Penn State, so we'll see how that one ends up. That's all we have for this week. He's John Rohr. I'm Eddie Whitman. We'll see you next time.